Iron Banner gave me AIDS. Let's talk about it. So, for the 3 weeks prior to Tuesday's reset, we've had probably the best 6v6 experience Destiny 2 has to offer in Guardian game supremacy, and that's because Bungie literally couldn't mess with the matchmaking. It was class v class, and so there was no possible way to implement skill-based matchmaking or fireteam-based matchmaking or anything like that because player populations were so low, it forced random matchmaking, full connection-based matchmaking, right? Now, it obviously wasn't perfect, and if you did play Guardian games class v class, you'll know that because Hunter stacks pretty consistently ran over everyone. And if you want me to actually provide an explanation for that, I think it's pretty simple. The average high skill player just game theoried it out and realized that on average, higher skill players will play Hunter because Hunter's just a more fun class to get good at. And so they just decided, okay, let's all run Hunter, and then we'll run over the Titan and Warlock squads. And that doesn't mean Hunter's had a 100% win rate, right? I've obviously played a ton of matches on Warlock and Titan, as you saw in my last video, and we were pretty consistently running over lobbies. But on average, higher skill players were on Hunter, and so if you wanted to have an easy time, you played Hunter. If you wanted to play against the grain, then you played Warlock or Titan. All of this is to say, despite those obvious hurdles, despite having to potentially play games against 6 Void Hunters all at once, Class v Class Guardian games was still a much more enjoyable experience than Iron Banner. Now, this may sound unreliable coming from a very dedicated PvP player. You'd think, okay, obviously this guy prefers CBMM, he prefers no SBMM because he just wants to run over lobbies, right? And to some part, you'd be correct. I do enjoy going on long streaks and trying to hit 7th columns, but if you want actual reliable data as a PvP player, then you should listen to your friends that don't play PvP, right? And so my PvE friends absolutely loved Guardian game supremacy, right? We were playing a whole bunch. You know, they could play with me and we wouldn't run into these awful lobbies where people are sweating their nuts off because it's just complete CBMM. So we're just having fun, right? Which means I can play with lower skill players and the lower skill players don't feel pressured and they're not getting completely slammed because they don't have to play my egregious SBMM and lobby balancing. To contrast, in Iron Banner, I've played mostly Eruption. We did play some Control. People hate it. How do I know this? Well, firstly is the amount of matches we actually play, right? On average, for Supremacy, we're running for like 5 hours in a row. Like, people are hopping on and we're just gaming until like 2 a.m. Fucking around, running random loadouts, goofing off, switching up classes. You know, we ran some Hunters, some Warlocks, some Titan games. We're just all having a grand old time. To contrast this, I can barely squeeze out like 5 games of Iron Banner from my friends. Like, these guys cannot stand the lobbies we're getting put into. It's just constant pulse rifle spam. People are holding hands all the time. It's really, really annoying as a lower skilled player to just run into the meat grinder of Martlet Doom. And there's nothing you can do about it because you just don't have the tools to fight back against something like that, right? In these lobbies, I'm having a decent time, but that's because I know how to play against freak squads. These guys don't, okay? And so what that means is they are taking psychic damage every single match that they play with me. And what that means is they just don't play PvP because I'm the reason they're playing PvP, right? For me, if I don't want loot from a raid, I just don't play the raid, right? Like, I've cleared Epic Desert Perpetual maybe once, just because I don't even want anything from the raid. I've cleared normal Desert Perpetual a couple times because I wanted some of the stuff, but after that, meh. So if you think about the same thing, but the inverse, PvE players, they're coming into Iron Banner because they want some loot, and I'm kind of like the catalyst for that. It's like, okay, well, if we play with the PvP player, maybe it's more enjoyable. We're going to fuck around with the buddies, and we're going to get the loot that we're actually looking for, despite it being kind of a struggle. And that's a pretty palatable exchange when we're all having a pretty decent time, and, you know, playing in a squad isn't actively punished by fireteam-based matchmaking. But when it is, what that means is they are not motivated enough to try and go get the loot, right? The chase isn't worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, because the squeeze is like grabbing your testicles in both hands and just fucking wrenching on it. It is like mentally painful to play these lobbies, so they just don't, right? I can't squeeze games out of my friends, and so I'm playing solo, so that means my mental state's getting worse because I've got nobody to complain to except the voices in my head, right? So let's actually get into why I think Iron Banner is so bad in this particular iteration. So firstly, above everything else is the loot, right? The armor set is simply not worth it for PvE players. PvE players are running around with shit like Therapotent, shit like Smoke Jumper. They do not care about getting a little bit of health back if you get a kill at red HP. Additionally, the base PvP set, which for some reason is dropping at a rate of like 2-to-1 to Iron Banner armor, is also just worthless, right? This armor set has been so dog shit in both PvE and PvP that it's like genuinely a meme. I don't know of a single person who is keeping a set of this stuff. And the issue with armor not being good is that that's the main drop you're seeing, right? In order to make tier 5 weapons actually kind of hard to chase, you have to make the initial drop of the tier 5 weapon that you're chasing, which is in this case the auto rifle, hard to get, because it's a 1 in 4 for PvE players to see a trait combination that they want, right? If you want D-Stab Repulsor Brace, it's literally 1 in 4 for you to get that, and you get a free roll from being rank 2 on the event pass. So the loot sucks. No armor means no consistent drop that you're interested in, and the weapon being rare means that you're kind of just shooting shots in the dark because there's no deterministic way to chase it. So you're already going into this game mode with shot mentals because the loot just isn't what you want to see, right? You're just constantly discouraged by the loot. And so then you add on to this mechanics like fireteam-based matchmaking, which disincentivizes you from playing with your friends, right? Fireteam-based matchmaking says if you play in a 2-stack, you play other 2-stacks. If you play in a 3-stack, you play other 3-stacks. If you play in a 4-stack, now you're playing 6 stacks, and it's really annoying because players in stacks tends to be higher skill just on average, right? The average person solo queuing Crucible is kind of a shitter, not to offend them. But once you tell people, okay, you can only play stacks, firstly, matchmaking times go up, which means you're sitting in orbit for longer. Secondly, you're playing higher quality players on average, which feels like complete shit when the sandbox is as stale and disgusting as it is right now. Thirdly, the connections are worse. Here's the big one. If you're playing with a friend that is East Coast with you, okay, fine. But if you play stack v stack, fireteam-based matchmaking, the likelihood of you playing someone with one person from Russia and the other person from California, and one of them is just impossible to shoot because of this game's horrid peer-to-peer matchmaking, good God, it's over for you, okay? All enjoyment has gone out the window because as soon as you see that player, you just need to run. They are an invincible entity that is trying to seize your soul. So, fireteam-based matchmaking absolutely ruins the experience, right? If there was no fireteam-based matchmaking, then you experience what was happening in Guardian games, which is, okay, sometimes you run into a stack and you get steamrolled, but most of the time you're just a solo playing solos, or if you're running in a stack with some friends, you're playing mostly solos because solos make up the majority of the players, right? And in PvP, the larger the volume of potential players, the more enjoyable it is, because a lot of PvP's enjoyment comes from the randomness of each lobby. Compounding on this is the absolute monkey's paw conundrum that is the game mode selection in Iron Banner. So, on one side, you have Control, which is a fine game mode, but it's outlier protection, and if you look under the hood for outlier protection, it's just skill-based matchmaking. And on the other side is Eruption, which is open skill, but it's a lower population because it's a shitty game mode, and because of lobby balancing and fireteam-based matchmaking, each match of Eruption you play feels insanely punishing. And I haven't even talked about Eruption's flaws as a game mode yet. Eruption is a horrible game mode. So what Eruption says is, after 5 kills, every single enemy on the opposing team has free wall hacks on you, and they can see a timer which tells them when exactly you blow up. And so what that means is the best way to play Eruption is everybody play in a very tight circle with pulses out, and everybody tries to get a tag on each person so they can reset their timers so they don't fucking die. And also, you have to sit together, because if you don't, everybody knows that you're isolated and they can go track you down, or if you have a super popped, avoid you because they know exactly where you are. Additionally, each kill while you're on a streak farms ability energy for you and your team, which means that Eruption plays kind of like Mayhem. In Supremacy, this was kind of okay because it was just super energy, and it was only when you were on a long kill streak, and because it was only for the person who picked up the crest, that meant that there was a very limited amount of super energy to go around. In Eruption, this is everybody. So this means that in a sandbox state where abilities are already insanely oppressive because they spam CC and AoE everywhere and you hate it, there is even more of that to go around. And this feels terrible to play against. Let me just repeat that. Abilities, already bad. More abilities, even more bad, okay? Let me say this slowly for any Bungie devs listening. please stop giving us game modes with more abilities. Abilities are bad. That's not to say that you can't have game modes where you reward players with extra ability energy for doing things, but when you hand it out to people as a team like this, it becomes significantly more unbearable than it would be if you could just give it out on an individual basis. Now, enough ranting about the ability problem. Let's now talk about the 5-kill streak and the timer. Okay, so the first issue, and this is a little more subtle, with the kill streak thing is the glow, right? If you have a glowing player, that's fine, but you cannot let the glow affect the surrounding areas, because what glowing in Destiny 2 means is now I know when you're going to slide and try and shotgun me, and I just hold my Aureus out at roughly 10 meters and radar bait you and absolutely molest you when you try to play even a little bit aggressive, because I am completely unpunished for doing this, and in fact even rewarded for this type of behavior. So now that you've successfully radar baited people until you get a 5 streak, now you run into an incredibly frustrating situation, which is you just die, okay? I've actually hit a 20 streak in Eruption before, once. Okay, it is so ungodly punishing to put full wall hacks on someone and a 15-second timer above their head, okay? And then to put them on maps like Disjunction, Eternity, Multiplex, Vostok. You are expecting people to traverse 150 meters and kill someone in a quarter of a minute. This is not feasible in Destiny 2, okay? This is just simply not possible. Maybe pre-Stompy's nerf, you could play something like Strand Hunter and learn lineups to get across certain maps super fast like this. Maybe if double Icarus Dash was still in the game, we would have enough movement to live through stuff like this. But 15 seconds in modern day Destiny 2 is fucking inconceivably punishing, especially on these massive maps. And then you have the wall hacks aspect, okay? A 15-second timer plus wall hacks on you means that people know exactly when you're going to desperation play, when you're going to try the ego shotgun, when you're going to sit back so they just don't have to peek the lane, etc., etc. And that means that after you get 5 kills, you are basically at the mercy of people on the enemy team playing like retards. Because if they are exhibiting even the smallest amount of sentience, you will just die to them, because they'll peek you, put 3 bullets into you from a martlet, and then unpeek and watch you explode, and then they get kill credit, which means 5 points for their team. Which means that if you got on a 5 streak and then they get 5 points, you're basically like score neutral. It's so much bullshit. Okay, this mode is horribly designed. It's so bad. So what this actually means is if you are playing this game from an optimal game theory perspective, where you're expecting all players to do the optimal thing, the number one thing that you should be doing is getting 5 kills and then jumping off the map. And if you see any like mega sweat players playing this mode, they will get 5 kills and then jump off the map, unless they have like a super and a really good situation set up where they can get a couple kills and then run out of their super and then jump off the map. Because dying while you're on a 5+ streak is just simply extremely punishing and almost inevitable. So now that I spent all this time complaining, let's do what's customary and actually put out some suggestions that could fix Iron Banner. Firstly, both modes need to be CBMM, okay? Iron Banner needs to be completely open skill. SBMM has a place in Destiny 2. I think there should be some beginner playlists or some, more party modes, and then you can, I guess, make those SBMM if you want, just so the shitters have a place to hang out and be goofy. But something like Iron Banner, which is a community-wide event where everybody is expected to play, where it's hyped up to be this massive competition, it needs to be open skill, because if it's not, that means that higher skill players, which are the ones that you are targeting the most with an event like this, these are the players that you want to be posting clips on Twitter, you want to be making edits, you want to be spreading social media presence for this event. They can't do that, okay? Which means less positivity, which means less popularity for the event, which means less people playing it, which means basically on a long enough timeline, it fails. And you might say that I'm overstating the effect that social media presence has on games, but I think I'm honestly understating it here, okay? Games these days live or die by how well they're received on social media, okay? Games like Balatro or Slay the Spire 2 took the gaming world by storm because of how popular they were on social media, right? Balatro didn't run around advertising itself everywhere. People didn't buy it because they saw it in a GameStop, okay? People played Balatro because the game came out and it was really good, and a lot of people started making YouTube videos about it. The same can essentially be said for Slay the Spire 2, right? The game had a fairly large social media following, even though it had rather small player numbers, and so when the second game came out, everybody was excited to play the new content, and all those people that were sitting in the background just lurking watching YouTube videos hopped in to play the game. So, step 1, connection-based matchmaking to boost social media presence. Step 2, how do we actually make Iron Banner modes interesting? Let's start from the inspiration point of excellence, right? Iron Banner is personal or team-wide excellence. In Iron Banner, if you capture all 3 zones, then you get a whole bunch of points, right? In Iron Banner, if you go on an insane kill streak in Eruption, you make a whole bunch of points for your team and everybody gets rewarded with ability energy and super energy and the like, right? So, in order to further push this, I'll go into specific game mode tweaks in a second. I think you should completely turn off lobby balancing and decrease mercy ratios, right? What do I mean by this? I mean, make it so if you're ever 40 points ahead in control, instant mercy, go next. If you're ever 30 points ahead in Eruption, or maybe 40 points ahead in Eruption, instant mercy, go next. The whole point of Iron Banner should be dominating the enemy team through personal excellence. And what the existence of the mercy mechanic means is that you can essentially let teams be as unbalanced as you want, and instead of suffering and getting absolutely beaten to a pulp, the game will just end, everybody will get their rewards, and then you move on. This should be like the number one way that Iron Banner games end, okay? Mercies should be the way Iron Banner games end, because the idea of Iron Banner is brutal domination, just like the Iron Lords, right? Lady Efferdy threw Lord Saladin at a fucking spider tank because they ran out of ammo. Fellwinter has a fucking ghost in the back of his head because he just stole it off an Iron Lord and made it watch his back for him, right? The Iron Lords are not known for being subtle or merciful, and so the mercy ruling should be Shaq saying, okay, you've successfully beaten your enemy down to a pulp enough, go next. And the way you make this fun in a PvP game is, okay, if a game ends with mercy, cool, everybody gets the same loot that they would get if the game ended to time, right? The game ending faster is a feature, not a bug. If a match ending faster just means that players get loot faster, the game mode itself is the event, because normal PvP, okay, if we get mercied, yeah, it's whatever. Iron Banner, if we get mercied, well, now everybody's getting extra cool Iron Banner loot, and everybody's getting Iron Banner rep for the event track, right? Whatever. This should be the attraction of Iron Banner, and it's just not for some reason. Like, why are we trying to prevent mercies? This is a mechanic that exists so that the game can be better, and you're acting like a high mercy rate is a bad thing, and you're putting mechanics in the game that actively make it less fun to play to make the mercy rate lower. Like, why? Next up, let's talk about game mode tweaks that should happen in order to make the Iron Banner game modes better, right? Starting off with Iron Banner Eruption, because it's on my mind and I just, like, it's so simple to fix this. Literally all you need to do is remove the wall hack mechanic and change it to a kill feed mechanic, right? If I am on an 8 streak, my name should pop up in the kill feed whenever I get a kill, and it should say, Sis killed random dumbass number 6767, and he's on a kill streak of 9. Be careful, he's earning a lot of points or something, right? It should glow brighter in the kill feed every time I get on a longer streak. And so what that means is people are now encouraged to hunt me down, and they know that I'm desperate and I'm trying to get kills fast, but they don't have free wall hacks and a timer over my head. Next, let's just completely remove the super energy and ability generation mechanic, okay? In other game modes like Supremacy with the super gen, I think that makes sense. There's a limited amount of crests, which means there's a limited amount of super energy, and it's really cool as an event game mode to see somebody get like 5 supers back to back to back and do goofy things. In Eruption, I think you should just let guns be the #1 way people are getting kill streaks, especially if assists are counted, right? If it was just kills, I can understand why you would need to let people farm up super energy, but because assists count, that means that people can use their guns to extend their streak very easily. So just remove the whole ability energy thing, remove the whole super energy thing. It's just simply 5 streak. After that, you earn more points for your team, and the streak itself is the reward. You don't have to provide extra incentive for people to go on a kill streak. The points and the game ending faster and getting the Iron Banner loot is the reward. Additionally, the maps, okay? This game mode should only take place on medium or smaller sized maps. No disjunction, no multiplex, no Vostok, nothing like that, just smaller maps, okay? The biggest map that I should see in this game mode is fucking Twilight Gap, because as soon as you tell people they need to traverse 150 meters to the next spawn to try to get an assist before they blow up, the game just becomes unbearably annoying. So small maps and the entire issue is fixed. Next up, Iron Banner control. And this is actually a really simple change. Right now, there's an issue where if the enemy team captures every single zone and puts you in a lockdown, it feels like there's no way you can fight back and you kind of just have to wait out the timer. I propose a system where if every single person on the team dies, then their lockdown ends. So now, as a team, if the enemy has a lockdown, you are very incentivized to try and hunt down every single player on their team and end the lockdown early so you can go back to earning an even or increased amount of points on your side of the scoreboard. That's a pretty simple fix. I think that would solve basically every issue I have with Iron Banner control. Now for Tribute, I think this is the most fundamentally flawed game mode and needs the most work because its current iteration just simply misunderstands Destiny 2 PvP as a whole. Firstly, no more PvE ads, okay? The turrets might have seemed like a fun little idea, they cause more problems than they're worth. People are proccing Hawkmoon shots and getting free one-bangs off of the yellow turret, okay? People are farming Revision 0 sniper rounds. People are proccing Devour off of the red turrets, okay? It's just not something that should exist. And secondly, the Cabal ball coming down and insta-killing anybody in the immediate vicinity feels like absolute shit, okay? Random deaths already feel like shit. Dying to that fucking Cabal ball because it's not marked properly when it's going to land is very cringe. So just remove the whole Cabal aspect of it. And actually, while we're at it, remove the dunking mechanic as a whole. Currently, there exist 2 dunk locations, one in your spawn, one in the enemy spawn, and this is inherently flawed because you can kill someone, grab their crest, and then run back to your spawn, and the enemy team can do nothing to stop you from scoring that point. I propose the following. Firstly, kills still make crests. That's cool. Secondly, walking up to them still gives you a buff. Okay, cool. However, this buff will just be like the buff in totems during King's Fall. If you kill someone, run over, grab their crest, now you have Guardian Crest X1, you run over to the zone, you step on it, and every crest that you have is instantly deposited, okay? This is actually very similar to how the mode works currently because once you finish your hold to interact, every crest is deposited that frame. There's no stopping someone mid-dunk to make all their crests fall out. No, all their crests are dunked the frame they finish their interaction. And so the dunk animation just serves as like a waste of time. If you can't stop your enemy from interacting with the objective, then what's even the point? Just streamline the interaction with the objective and make it about map control and staying alive. That fixes the entire issue. Next up, Iron Banner Fortress. I think this is actually mostly fine. Just remove the Cabal turrets and you can actually keep the Cabal ball actually slamming down and clearing the area. In fact, I think you should make the AoE a little bit bigger and obviously telegraph that it's a bigger AoE because you do kind of want people to be forced out of that area when the zone spawns. So I think that's mostly fine. And it's fine because there's a massive countdown, right? It's like 10, 9, 8, 7. If you don't get out, we're going to fuck you up. So that mode is actually like perfectly fine. You just remove the turrets, everything's fixed. Next up, Rift. This is the last Iron Banner party game mode. I think the only thing you need to do to fix this game mode is make it so that you can dunk 3 times before it resets everyone back to the home screen. The current issue with Rift is it's about 60% downtime, 40% actually playing the game, okay? So the way you improve this is you make Rift 2 rounds of 3 spark dunks each, not 3 on one side, 3 spark dunks total, and if a team ever goes 4-0 against another team, bang, mercy, go next. This fits the previous identity of Iron Banner we discussed. It makes it so that you can't just farm in spawns because you only have 4 minutes per round, and if you ever go 4-0, it's a mercy. So pretty simple, reduce the downtime, and we're chilling. Lastly is Iron Banner Clash. And why the hell is this game mode rarer than like a diamond in a coal mine? Why is Iron Banner Clash just not a thing that exists? Iron Banner is about beating the shit out of your enemies. Why is the game mode about beating the shit out of your enemies with no distractions at all the rarest game mode for Iron Banner? This doesn't make any sense. Just bring back Iron Banner Clash, make it first to 100, just like normal Clash. And if you want to add an extra mechanic to make it extra Iron Bannery, make it so that any kill after a 5 streak gives you 2 points, and any kill after a 10 streak gives you 3 points. Make it so that if you are an absolute Iron Lord, you can just mercy the enemy team faster. Remember, we talked about the tight mercy bounding, so the games end faster, so everybody gets their loot faster, because that makes it specifically an event. Just make Clash an even faster version of that. If somebody's dominating, bang, they end the game super quick and they get their loot and everybody's happy. Now, how do we fix the loot issue? Well, Luke CB14 actually put out a really cool thread on like a super in-depth way to fix the loot. I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to say each win should probably award you 2 tokens, including mercies. Each loss should give you 1 token, including being mercied. And you can go to Saladin and each weapon costs 3 or 4 tokens, and it is just tokens, because if it's tokens and Glimmer, then you're going to Glimmer bottleneck people, and that sucks. Why are we doing this? Well, currently, Iron Banner lacks agency. The most important thing during gambling is broadcasting the exact reward people are going to get. There's a reason gacha games do banners that broadcast the greatest new character right across the front. There's a reason why lottery tickets have the exact amount of money that you could win with the jackpot. It's because you picture how it would feel to win that exact jackpot, and your brain releases dopamine like you did win that. And so it strengthens your resolve to keep going for that reward, even when it's unwise, even when it's unlikely. So you need to add extra agency to the Iron Banner weapon grind. Additionally, the armor that you're getting throughout the event from actually playing the matches, because remember, you can just focus for weapons at Saladin. The armor needs to be interesting as well, because that's the drop that you're going to be seeing the most of after every single match. So the armor must be interesting to PvP and PvE players. Okay, I propose a set bonus like Skulking Wolf, except it works for every kill. A kill takes you off your enemy's radar. In PvP, it's like 3 seconds. In PvE, this should be like, I don't know, 5 to 8 seconds of an amplify-like buff, kind of like Skulking Wolf is on weapons, but it should just proc whenever you get a kill. Which, yeah, that's OP, fucking whatever, dude. It just needs to be a good armor set bonus for PvE as well as PvP, because this is the consistent drop. This is what you're going to be seeing. After every single match, you're probably going to be deleting like 2 or 3 pieces of armor. So you'd better make sure that if people do actually get a stat distribution that they like, they can keep it. And the last thing I'm going to say before I end this video, you have to give us more than 1 weapon. That is just completely, utterly embarrassing. 1 weapon, 1 weapon, 1 weapon. Fuck off.